Hi again, everybody. Mr. Rooney talking at you, and I'm going to show you some examples from section 8.4. And these equations are kind of high-end stuff, you know, they're a little complicated. So what we've done, and you remember this from class, we've created this little flow chart here for you. I would have that right on my desk, right beside me, and I would refer to that, you know, until I get really, really comfortable with this, and I put it here on every screen so we can refer to it, right? What step do we start our process at? Well, in this case, I don't see any mixed numbers. I don't see more than one denominator. I don't see brackets. I don't see like terms on the same side. So I get to variables on both sides, right? So that's the idea. You kind of step your way through that. So when we have variables on both sides, we're going to get rid of or cancel the lowest. Usually the lowest variable. There's a case where you might not. So we'll try that here. The lowest one would be 3n. So we would use negative 3n on both sides. And that gives me 2n negative 6.4 equals 2.6. And then on the other side, I need to get rid of, we go to step 6. Is there a constant? Remove the constant. So here's the constant. We would use a positive 6.4 to get rid of that. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time solving the equations because I think, you know, pretty well from there we're all good. I'm just going to mainly set them up. And we get, what is it, 8, 9.0. And then the last step, you know, do we have a coefficient? And we do, which is the 2, so we would divide both sides by 2. And we get n equals 4.5. So there's one where we have a variable on both sides. So here's another one. This one's a little more complicated, as you can tell. We look at our flow chart here and kind of step through it. I don't see any mixed numbers. I don't see any denominators, but I do see brackets. So let's start there and get our brackets out of the way. So we're going to multiply, of course, distributive property. And that's going to give us 0.6x. And don't forget the second one. That's going to give us negative 0.3. Now we also have this guy. We're just going to bring him down. The brackets don't affect that. So we're going to just carry on. And on the second one, I have this and I have this. So that gives me 0.04x, and then 0.04 by 0.5 is 0.2. Okay, and now the next step here, number 4, do I have variables on the same side, like terms on the same side? And I do here. Those are like terms. They can be added together. They can be simplified. So I have 0.6x. Those two go together to make negative 2.6. And then from there, you know, we're pretty good. It's going to look very similar to what we've seen from step 5. We have variables on both sides. We do here and here. I'm going to try and pick the lowest one to get rid of. That would be here. And I'd use a negative to cancel that out. So a negative 0.4x. And I'd use a negative 0.04 over there. Right? And then we just sort of carry on from there. We keep on going, then we get to step 6. And that's a 0, of course, so we're at 0.56x. And again, I'm not going to solve every one of these from start to finish, but we can kind of get the idea. You can see where we're going here. We would then get rid of our constant with a positive 2.6 and a positive 2.6. And we should be pretty good there. I'm going to let you finish this one off. 2.8, and then we of course divide by 0.56. Okay, another one. Now this one looks a little bit different. We still have, you know, we've got no mixed numbers, no denominators. I don't see any brackets, so there's 1, 2, 3 gone. Like terms on both sides, nothing there for like terms. So I could jump right to step 5, where I do see variables on both sides. So I've got a variable here and a variable here. We usually pick the lowest one. Well, let's try that in this case. We'll pick the lowest one, which would be that 0.25. And I'm going to get rid of that with a negative 0.25. And same thing over there. Remember, that's like a 0 there, so it's 50 take away 25 really. So I have 0.25x equals 1.6. Hey, look at that. Almost to the bottom already. Divide both sides by 0.25. So that was pretty good. Now, we look at the next one. looks very similar. We've got a variable here and a variable here. So again, I can sort of jump past that one and that one and that one and that one, go right to step 5, variables on both sides, which we have. Now, if I take the lowest one is actually on this side. So if I cancel that out with negative 1.4m and negative 1.4m, you may be wondering what the heck to put there. What's going on? Like, there's nothing left. So there's a case where you probably want to, in that case, if you recognize that there's not going to be anything left over here, you probably want to maybe not take the lowest one. I say usually, and here's the case where maybe you don't. So if we try that again, and we found in this case it would be negative 1.5 and negative 1.5. Now the reason why I don't get you to take the, or usually get to take the lowest one, is so that we can avoid negatives. So here we're going to have a negative. We're going to have negative 0.1. Negatives aren't the end of the world, but they are a little bit harder to work with. So we would have to then divide by a negative 0.1 as well. Okay? So that's the trick on that. So watch for those. If you have, if you're going to end up with nothing over here, you may want to think about taking the other variable first. Okay, now some fractions. All right. Let's go back. We're going to hit a few of these early steps now. No mixed numbers. Nope, we're good there. More than one denominator. Okay, let's start there. More than one denominator. We're going to get all our terms with a common denominator. So, common denominator would be 6. So we're going to convert everything out of 6. It's probably the easiest way to go. So when I do that, I multiply this guy by 2, and I have to multiply everything up here by 2. Both the 4m and the negative 3. Super, super important to do that. Multiply this 2 by, that's not 21 by the way, just when I copied it I had a little extra. So I multiply this guy by 3. Both of those have to get multiplied by 3. Distributive property all over the place. So I get 9 plus 3m. And again, the reason why we can do that is so now we can forget about our fractions and deal with 8m negative 6 equals 9 plus 3m. So that's a case where we have now the variables on both sides. That's really down to step 5. And we find our low variable. There's 8m, there's 3m. We can get rid of our 3m. Should be getting pretty good at these by now. 5m take away 6 equals 9. And of course we would add our 6 to both sides. 5m equals 15, and then we carry on, okay? Carry on from there. Divide both sides by 5. So there's a case where we have two denominators rather, here and here, and we get that common denominator, but that distributive property, can't tell you how important that is. Okay, let's see another one. Oh, that looks nasty. Now, right out of the gate, we have a mixed number. First thing, is there a mixed number? Let's change it. So we'll do that right away. So that gives us 7 over 6e. And maybe I'll just leave the rest for now. Try not to do too much at once, guys. So what do we look at next? Do we see more than one denominator? We do. All right, let's convert. So we're going to make this over 6, I think. So we'll leave that as is. We'll change that to 3 over 6. So now we can get rid of our denominators. When we do that, we still have 3, 1 negative e equals 7e. And our distributive property is going to come into play here. We have 3 times 1, 3 times negative e. So 3 times 1, 3 times negative e. Okay, we thought about where we were now in our process. We have variables on both sides. We do. And we're going to work on that and try to maybe pick the lowest one if it makes sense to do that. All right, so we have variable on excuse me for a sec. Okay, so we have variable here at negative 3. I think I'd go ahead and positive 3e that one. And so we have 3 equals 10e. You might be thinking, I don't like the look of that. But remember, there's our variable on the right-hand side this time. we would divide both sides by 10. And you can just leave that as 3 over 10 if you like. 3 over 10 equals 1e. If you're desperate to convert it, I guess you could. Okay, so that one looked a little hairy, but you know, if we start with mixed numbers and then get the common denominators, we'll be okay. Here's another one that looks kind of severe, but it's not so bad. If we have any mixed numbers, no. How many terms, by the way? Let's look at the terms. 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. So let's try and get common denominators, I think. So what we have 4, 3, 6. Let's go with 12. That's over 12. That's over 12. Now this guy is not a fraction, but we're going to have to make it a fraction, even if they don't have a denominator. So we're going to put him over 12 and this guy over 12. So we should be able to convert those not too badly. That's 3x, that's 4x, that's multiplied by 12, so that's multiplied by 12. That's 12x and by 2, so 2 over 12. Again, here's the beautiful part. We're gone there. Now, something unique we haven't seen so far. We have 3x plus 4x equals 12x plus 2. Let's look at our steps again. Do we see number 4, do we see like terms on the same side? Do we have any like terms? Well, look at this. We do. We have to make that into 7x. So 7x equals 12x positive 2. Let's see now we have a variable here, a variable there. Does it make sense to get rid of the smallest one? Does it make sense to do that? In this case, you're going to be left with nothing. So I would get rid of the lighter one, or the bigger one in this case, so negative 12, negative 12. You're just going to have to watch your negatives a bit. So that gives us negative 5 equals 2, and divide both sides by negative 5. Okay? X equals, you can just leave it as negative 2 over 5 if you like, or decimal 4. Okay, another one, very similar to the last one, and that we have, let's count them up, 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. So as soon as I see that more than one denominator, which I have, I'm going to go and get common denominators. And let's remember that this has to be over 1 and this has to be over 1. So a good common denominator here would be 6, so we're already good there. That's going over 6, multiply 6 times, I get 30. That's going over 6, multiply 3, and that's going over 6, so I get 12. All gone. So I have 1p, or just p if I like, negative 30 equals 3p and positive 12. And right away, hopefully we're getting to recognize that. There's a step 5, variable on both sides. So pretty good idea to maybe get rid of the lower one there. And I don't even think I'll finish that one off. I think you guys are getting good enough to handle that. I think I have one more. Yep, one more to go. And again, we see, check this out. Mixed numbers? No. More than one denominator? Yes. So let's go and get a common denominator. So the common denominator here is 6. So I'm going to multiply this by 2. And again, the idea, make sure we hit everything up top here by 2. That'll give me 8m negative 6. On the other side, I'm multiplying by 3. Multiply both of those by 3. This will take some practice. So that's 9, and that's 3m. Sorry, the wrong color, but anyhow, 9 positive 3m. We can get rid of that at that point, and then we can carry on from there. Same idea. We've got the variables and the two variables. I'll just rewrite it for you. Get rid of your lowest variable, and you should be good. So I hope that has proved. Hope that's been helpful, and you can always replay any of these if you want to have a peek at them again. Good luck, everybody.